NDC for eba abamu what say Wode Maya or ka Galamsey wasem. Mra na MPP for ewa abamu no Wode Maya or ka Galamsey wasem. Nanso NDC for ba na yenti se or ka Galamsey for asem. Ana enunti ena wama no eye diplomatic passport sebe ya ombeka na no atum na wodi etie sa broni asem yi na ohu bedwiriw na mesere se utie wi a wonso efa o comment de man ase ho eye brofo dem nisa wote brofo ndu de to bo ase na etie ensem no anokwasem se Ghana fo obia epeni botom moma yenkotie mra.
So here's a fascinating story coming out of Ghana. You've got a really prominent activist who suddenly goes quiet on a huge issue, and it's sparking a massive debate. We're going to dive into what's happening because it touches on everything from influence and politics to a question that, as one source says, has just become way too loud to ignore. And really, the whole thing boils down to this one question. What happened to Wode Maya?
The guy, so no one is going to do anything? It's illegal, right? Purely illegal. This river is definitely a source of drinking water to so many people. This is the popular Tano River. And look at the state of the river just because of one person's greed. I mean, listen, the saddest part of this all is that the previous administration, quote unquote, saying that they are trying their possible best to fight Galamsey.
See, this is a guy who was once one of the most vocal, outspoken critics of illegal mining, what's known locally as Galamsey. And now, crickets. And that sudden silence has a lot of people asking, why? You know, the source material we're looking at really nails it with this line. The whole argument is that the absence of his voice, the fact that he's not talking, says more than any press release or statement ever could. And to really feel the weight of that silence, we've got to rewind a little and look at who he was before all this. Okay, so before this quiet period, Wode Maya had built this reputation for being absolutely fearless. He wasn't just some critic tweeting from an office. No, he was on the ground, getting his boots dirty, and showing the world exactly what this destruction looked like up close. I mean, this was his whole brand, right? He was known for going hard after the previous government. He was traveling all over Ghana, filming the devastation firsthand, exposing the horrific damage to rivers and farmland. He pretty much became the voice for the Stop Galamsey Now movement, and he got thousands of young people fired up to speak out. This activism wasn't just something he did, it's who he was. So, what changed? How do you go from that to nothing? Well, our source points to two huge events that happened back to back, creating what a lot of people see as the big turning point in this whole story. The timeline here is pretty straightforward. First, you have a change in government. The NDC party comes into power. Then, almost right after, Wode Maya gets this major honor from the new guys in charge, a diplomatic passport. And it's the timing of it all that just raises so many eyebrows. And this is really the heart of it. A diplomatic passport? I mean, it's not just a fancy travel document that lets you skip lines at the airport. In this context, it's seen as this incredibly powerful symbolic gesture. It's the establishment pulling you in, basically saying, hey, you're one of us now. It's a ticket to a world of privilege and recognition from the very same power structures he used to challenge. So, all of this leads to the central theory that our source is floating to explain the change. It's this really interesting concept called soft silencing, the idea that you can quiet a critic without ever having to make a single threat. So what exactly is soft silencing? Well, think of it like this. You don't need to intimidate your critics or throw them in jail. Nope. Instead, you just bring them into the club. You give them awards, you give them access, you give them privileges. You make them so comfortable that maybe, just maybe, the fire to criticize starts to burn out. The theory lays out a pretty clear path. Step 1, you publicly praise the critic, put them on a pedestal. Step 2, you give them a big favor, something valuable. Step 3, this creates what's called a silent bond. It's this unspoken psychological weight. And the final result? The criticism just fades away. Not because someone ordered it, but because things just got complicated. And it really all boils down to that old saying we all know, right? You don't bite the hand that feeds you. It taps into something really deep in our psychology. Once somebody gives you something significant, it becomes really, really hard to turn around and call them out. It almost feels like a betrayal. So when you put it all side by side, the contrast is, well, it's pretty jarring. You've got the the fearless voice taking on the government, exposing environmental rot. And then you've got the now, silence on that very same Galamsey cancer, but this time it's under a government that's rolled out the red carpet for him. The whole puzzle is right there in that comparison. But here's where the story gets bigger. The source is really clear on this point. This isn't just about one guy. The whole Wode Maya situation is being presented as a perfect case study for a much larger, systemic issue that affects activism and public debate all across Ghana. So why does all this matter? Well, according to the source, the battle against Galamsey isn't supposed to be about politics. It's about saving the future of the country, literally saving Ghana's soul. And to win that fight, you need voices that are bold, independent, and most of all, consistent, no matter which party is in charge. The argument is that selective activism, only criticizing one side, just ends up hurting the whole cause. And it's really important to stress this. The source material framed this whole thing not as a personal attack on Wode Maya. It's being positioned as the start of a much-needed, if difficult, conversation. A conversation about what influence really means, about accountability, and that tricky dance between activists and people in power. Which brings us right back to the million-dollar question. Was this all just a coincidence? Did an influencer just naturally decide to change his focus? Or was it a calculated move to neutralize a powerful critic by simply hugging him close? The source doesn't give us the final answer, but it leaves us with this one powerful thought. Whatever the reason, the silence itself has become the story. And for a lot of people, that story is just too loud to ignore.